I have finished the story for Batman Arkham Shadow, and I've got some thoughts. Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about Batman Arkham Shadow and its place in the Arkhamverse, and we're going to end this off with the big question: is it a true Arkham game? Does it live up to the other Arkham games, and does it feel like a true entry in the series? Does it respect the lore? Does it feel like one? That's pretty much what we're going to talk about today. So, let's talk about it. So, this is a VR game, very different than many of the other ones. Now, there is an Arkham VR game out there, but that one is very short. This is like a full-on game. The runtime is, I believe they said, equivalent to Arkham Asylum, which is great. So, this is like a full-fledged video game, just set in VR, which is awesome. The way it works is obviously very different, and I think gameplay-wise, even though it's VR, there is a lot of recognizable traits of an Arkham game there. Puzzles, using explosive shell, throwing a batarang at a switch, all that type of stuff is still there. Using detective vision to scan certain items. All the hallmarks of an Arkham game are there, and in fact, I think some of them are actually a lot better. Because of VR, you can have like a lot of the puzzles in the game or switches you need to pull. They can be placed in a more precarious position because you're in VR and you can maneuver around more. Like, for example, some switches you have to hit, you have to like shimmy up a pole and then do like some monkey bars essentially on the roof, which obviously you can't do in an Arkham game. But you can do that in this. You can like grab onto a pole that's up on the ceiling. You can grab onto it with one hand, take out a batarang, and then throw it when you're in the position you need to. Like they had more wriggle room to work with the puzzles, which I think is a lot cooler than obviously the other games had the opportunity to. So in terms of gameplay, I think this feels very much like an Arkham game. Obviously, it's going to be a lot different again VR, but the way they did the combat and the way they did Predator maps, you can tell they were trying their best to just be an Arkham game. That in terms of gameplay, this is an Arkham game through and through. So, there we go. Now, let's get into the big thing, the story. Does this respect the Arkham games and their story, the continuity, everything? Well, I'll tell you one thing. They definitely respect characters. I'll give you that much. This ain't no Suicide Squad where they're shooting Batman in the head in a park and making fun of all the dead superheroes and pissing on their corpse. They don't do any of that. They respect the characters. I'll give them that. Even if there's some choices I don't agree with, they at least they freaking respect the characters and their reference and the lore. So let's start off. So, big characters we need to discuss here. So, for a majority of the game, you're in Blackgate Prison. That's where a big chunk of this game is. Blackgate Prison. That's the big setting for the game. There's a couple of stuff in the beginning where you go to Monarch Theater and the GCPD and all that. But for the main part, you're in Blackgate Prison the whole game. And you operate on two ones. At night, you are Batman, but during the day, you play as a prisoner. That prisoner is Matches Malone. So Arkham Shadow introduces Matches Malone to the Arkhamverse, which I think is awesome. Of course, Matches Malone, for those who don't know, that's Batman's identity when he needs to go undercover to, get dirt on criminals. So he's Irving Malone, but he gets put into prison for burning the bat symbol. So people nickname him, Matches, I love that. So Matches Malone being in the game, that's sweet. I love that. That was an awesome idea. Be like, oh, hey, he's going to be Matches Malone. That's sweet. That I like. We need to talk about the people in Arkham, of course. Not Arkham. People who are in Blackgate. So, Blackgate is run by Tiger. The same Tiger from Arkham City. Tiger is, at this point, a contracted military unit, right? Kind of like what they are in Arkham City, but in Arkham City they're kind of all devoted to Hugo Strange. It's like Tiger's like his army force, right? So Tiger is like that here as well. They've just been contracted to run the prison instead of be Hugo's enforcers. And there's a lot of familiar faces here in Tiger. For one of the guards is Frank Bowles from Arkham Asylum. He's here. You can tell it's him because obviously it says Bowles on the subtitles, but he's got the mismatched eyes and all that, and I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. You know, he was a Tiger guard at first, and then he transitioned into being an Arkham guard. That's kind of cool. Brendan is here from Arkham Origins. He was the head of Commissioner Loeb's task force for taking down Batman and all that. Dirty cop, all that type of stuff. Brendan's here. He is now a Tiger guard, which they kind of mentioned him becoming a Tiger guard kind of saved his ass from being sent to jail and all that. So he's here. That I liked. Of course, Tiger here is run by Lyle Bolton. Lyle Bolton is Lockup from Batman the Animated Series. Lyle Bolton had a bit of a Easter egg in Arkham Origins. There was like a folder with his name on it, and they took that and they're like, we're gonna fully bring him into this game, and he is a massive, big, hulking freaking monster. He is intimidating. He feels threatening. Like he feels like, yeah, all the Tiger guards fall in line for Lyle Bolton. He's great. He's got a menacing voice, all that stuff. He is awesome. And they kept the thing from the animated series where he does admire Batman, but then he feels afterwards that, Batman's gone soft. What are you doing, Batman? I'm punishing the criminals. That's like you, that type of thing. They do that as well, which I like. Prisoners in Blackgate. We have Ben Turner, aka Bronze Tiger, who is back from Arkham Origins Blackgate. There's quite a lot of references to Origins Blackgate, which we will get to. But it's nice to see him here. He's still here. Arnold Wesker, the ventriloquist, is here as well. And we pretty much get to see his full transformation into the ventriloquist and Scarface. And they pretty much went like beat for beat comic book accurate with his origin here, which is nice. And you get to see the story progress throughout the it's like a side little story that you get to see as the main story goes on, especially like when you leave your cell to become Batman during the night, you have to pass Arnold's cell, and you get little bits of his descent into being the ventriloquist. So it's real nice. We have oh my god, Takeo Yamashiro, who is a freaking deep cut into DC lore. Oh my god. Yamashiro in DC Comics is part of the Yakuza. And he doesn't have a big role at all. He's in Batman and the Outsiders. And he dies very shortly after. He's introduced in issue 9 and dies in issue 12. Like, he does not last long. And he's really not that important of a character in the grand scheme of DC lore. He's there for that one story, and he's gone. So the fact they brought him in, it's like, oh, geez Louise, it's a freaking deep cut. We're going to go into spoilers, by the way. I am going into spoilers in this. So be wary. Because for me to fully go into this, I have to go into spoilers. So, it turns out that Yamashiro is just a name. So they took the name of a DC character as the alias for someone else, which, okay, that's fine. He's actually Chris Nakano. Chris Nakano is a pretty new character in DC Comics. He really only showed up after Joker War, that dumbass storyline. And he became the mayor of Gotham City. He was a cop, but he became the mayor of Gotham City, and he just does not like vigilantes. He's the whole thing where he thinks the vigilantes are just as bad as the criminals, essentially. But he was a cop, and in DC Comics, and then became a mayor. So what they're saying is that Yamashiro in this game is Chris Nakano. So that's nice that they took the name of a relatively unknown DC character and are like, okay, he's gonna be the alias for someone else in DC, who is also pretty unknown because he's a pretty new character, and let's be honest, no one's freaking reading DC Comics right now. So that's nice that they did that, and they brought Chris Nakano in, and he's a cop like he is in the comics, so that's cool. So he's there as well as a prisoner. Other prisoners are Bird, who is Bane's lieutenant from the side mission in Arkham Origins. He's back, so that's cool that he's here. He actually has he's got like a pretty side role here, which is just nice to see. Ferris Boyle you can find in the courtyard when you're like kind of walking around Blackgate. He doesn't have a big role in this game at all, but it's nice to see that Ferris Boyle's there because of Cold Heart DLC. That's nice. Ratcatcher is here for story purposes because of the Rat King. He's a member of the Rat King cult and all that type of stuff. So Ratcatcher is here for story purposes. And we gotta talk about Ratcatcher here. Big thing about Ratcatcher, they did race swap him from his comic counterpart. Now, of course, the argument can be made, well, we never saw Ratcatcher in the Arkhamverse before, so, you know, it's not really a race swap, which, okay, but canonically in comics, he's not black. So, it is a race swap. There's no, that's just how it is. There is no way going around it. It's a race swap. Now, I will say, there is another race swap, which we will get to. In terms of the race swap, it does not, I don't think the word, it's not a bad race swap in the term of the race, him being black now is his character, right? Like, if he was white, his character would have been exactly the same, you know? It's just a matter of why. Why race swap him? There's no point. Because, like I said, it doesn't change the character. Character would have been exactly the same. So what's the reason for it? You know, my brain immediately goes to DEI, because God, where games are infested with that crap nowadays. But there wasn't a lot of DEI, you know, signs in this game. But it's something that I wouldn't have thought twice about like 10 years ago. But because of where we are now in games, I have to talk about it and think about it. So there we go. They race swap Ratcatcher for no reason, and Ratcatcher plays a significant role in this story, as you know, he's one of the head honchos for the Rat King's cult. You kind of interrogate him as both Batman and Matt just to find out stuff about the Rat King. And Ratcatcher dies, or it's implied he dies in this game. Now, Ratcatcher, I believe it was known he had died in the Arkham continuity. Ratcatcher, he is killed, yes. Ratcatcher dies in the Arkhamverse, which, yeah, that's known. He is killed before the events of Arkham Knight by the Arkham Knight. Now, that might be... Now, here's the thing. The Arkham Knight comics are very loosey-goosey with their continuity in the Arkhamverse. But if it's an Arkham Knight Genesis, which I believe is where this is from, in Arkham Knight Genesis. Yes, it's in Arkham Knight Genesis. Arkham Knight Genesis is canon, so he is dead. Yes, we knew that. But the thing is, Ratcatcher dying in this, which it implies he does, that doesn't work, because then how does his equipment get into Arkham Asylum? He's in Arkham City. He's in Arkham City and hiding. He has plenty of like stuff in the Arkham City stories. So this is a bit of a lore-breaking moment here if Ratcatcher dies. Now, they could just mention that, oh, he passed out due to injury and he's not actually dead. You know, which, that is an open possibility. It looks like he dies, but they could just say, oh, he just passed out. He's fine. He's not actually dead. But the dialogue they give kind of does imply he dies, but, you know, they do have wiggle room to say he's still alive and not break lore there. Next up here in Blackgate, let's talk about Leslie Tompkins. So Leslie Tompkins is in the game. That's cool. I am all for bringing in Leslie Tompkins into the game. In the Arkhamverse, Leslie Tompkins is a pretty big part of Batman lore, and she kind of gets overlooked every now and then. So when when Harvey Dent mentions that, you know, Leslie Tompkins is helping him with his campaign, I'm like, oh, cool, they're bringing in Leslie. That's nice. They mentioned Leslie. And then Leslie shows up. I'm like, oh, cool, Leslie Tompkins is here. It's another race swap for reasons I don't understand, but I'm just going to assume they need to hit a DEI quota, and that was how they thought to do it. Because, again, doesn't change her character at all. Her race is not any effect on her. But she's black now. Because DEI, I guess. Now, Leslie's role is... this is something. Okay, so it said that Leslie looked after Bruce and Harvey after Bruce's parents died. So when Bruce's parents died in an alley, Leslie found him in the alley, and she called the police to have the police, take care of Bruce and all that. Then after that, Bruce and Harvey grew up together as friends, and Leslie was kind of like their she kind of looked after them, right? Like they would hang out at her practice and all that type of stuff. Don't know about that. Now, Leslie Tompkins, normally in comic lore, she is like an associate, a colleague of Thomas Wayne, and she kind of looks in on Bruce every now and then, but Bruce still kind of grew up in Wayne Manor alone. So I'm a bit iffy on her now suddenly just being inserted into his life like this. Like, I'm fine if you want to do the thing where it's like normal, where she kind of she checks in on Bruce every now and then, and she knows he's Batman, which is accurate to lore. She knows in comics that he's Batman, so I'm completely fine with that. That's lore accurate. But now she suddenly had this big part of life where she was like a motherly figure to him. Don't know about that, buddy. Don't know about that. That is the problem though with prequels, is I have to tell the story, but now she's never going to be talked about ever again. But whatever, she's not an unwelcome presence. It's just, I'm just like, you're trying to now tell me she was this important part of his life? Okay, don't know. Alright. Carmine Falcone. He is a big part of the story in this. So Carmine has been taken down and sent to Blackgate by the start of the game. So a bit of Batman Long Halloween-esque there, with Gordon, Batman, and Harvey working together to take down Falcone. He's fine. I think Carmine Falcone is fine. I found him quite funny, to be honest, as well. He kind of runs the prison. He's in prison, but he's not actually in prison, type of thing. He's pretty comfy. He's got a agreement with Lyle Bolton. He's got his own like private place in the prison. He's a prisoner, but he's not really a prisoner. But he's meant to be going to trial, and Harvey's like bigly motivated to get Falcone, like he is in a Long Halloween. So yeah, there's Carmine Falcone. Next up, we gotta talk about the two doctors in Arkham Blackgate, in Arkham Shadow. Jonathan Crane and Harleen Quinzel. So let's talk about Harleen first. You got a glimpse of her in Arkham Origins. She was working for Hugo Strange as like an assistant or something. But she's slowly climbing up the ranks to become a psychiatrist in her own right. And when she meets Joker, you can tell she's a bit naive still at that point. And she does seem kind of a bit disinterested, to be honest. But now here in Arkham Shadow, she's fully one of the psychiatrists, one of the doctors here. And she's fully into, she wants to help her patients, right? That's the big thing. She tells Batman, I hear all the stuff said about me. People think I'm wasting my time, but I genuinely want to help these people get better. So they are showing she is genuinely a good person, which is the right thing to do. Harleen Quinzel is a very good person, which makes it when Joker warps and twists her mind all the more sadder. Speaking of her relationship with the Joker, yeah, we gotta talk about that. I'm not a huge fan of the fact that they are already implying that she's already under his sway. Because again, in Arkham Asylum, it's the mad love story. She interviews Joker, he warps and twists her mind in the patient interview tapes, and we go from there. But here they're already implying they're already close. They're already, like she already sees him as like her favorite patient and all that type of stuff. So it's like, that kind of goes against those interview tapes. I don't know. Not a huge fan of that. Not a huge fan. But you can already see the Harley Quinnisms as well, kind of coming out of her, which again could be attributed to the Joker, or that could be attributed to the stress she has with dealing with Jonathan Crane. Let's get into Jonathan Crane. Okay, I felt he was a bit too scarecrowy this game. I'm fine with him being here because in Arkham Origins they establish he's already looking for patients, to do his experiments on, and he visits Blackgate quite a bit in the game. You can see his name on like the log and all that type of stuff. So now he just officially has now a position in Blackgate, which obviously he would use to kind of run his fear experiments on, which makes sense. I understand that. But I just feel they went a bit too far with his experiments to the point where I'm like, he's practically Scarecrow in all but name already, which is a bit, I don't know. Because I'm thinking about the patient interview tapes from Arkham Asylum, where he kidnaps a doctor, runs his own experiments, then he becomes the patient, and Batman again takes him down. Now, it's not explicitly stated that he wasn't already, dealt with Batman by that point, right? But that it's assumed that's his origin, right? But they have wiggle room to, fully say that, because he doesn't get arrested at this point. It's just his experiments are kind of halted by Batman, Or his experiments aren't even halted. Batman just now is aware of his experiments. So it could be a thing where Batman's already known about Crane, and then in those patient interview tapes happen where he fully puts a stop to Crane, and Crane has gone crazy and becomes Scarecrow. That could be the case, and if that's what they're going for, okay, fine. But I just felt they may have gone a bit too far in his descent to becoming Scarecrow in this game. But he is doing experiments on people. Barbara Gordon is in this game, and again, I feel they went a bit too far with her. She calls herself Oracle in this already, which is that's a big no-no for me. I liked it in Arkham Origins, where it's like she's inspired by Batman to do something, and that's when she hacks into his comms and tells him about the stashes and all that type of stuff. And it's like, okay, this is a nice lead-in for her to be introduced to Batman, and then eventually she'll become inspired to be Batgirl, go out on her own. But here she's already like, call me Oracle. I'll be your eyes in the, I'll be your eyes in the sky and all that type of stuff. And I'm like, okay, I think you just wanted Oracle, but you realized where you were, and then you just made her Oracle. Because then she's gonna be Oracle, then Batgirl, then back to Oracle. I'm not a huge fan of that. Yeah, I think they should have greatly reduced Barbara's role in this. I wasn't a fan of what they were doing there. And then we move on to another character. Oh boy, here we go. We gotta talk about this boy here. So, there is a rat, which is what they call the Rat King's followers. They are rats, right? And one of the characters who is involved with the Rat King is called Shrike. Now, Shrike is a character from DC who he's mainly associated with Nightwing. There is multiple versions of Shrike. The first iteration of, well, not the first iteration of Shrike, but the first known kind of iteration of Shrike was from Robin Year One, and he was like a member of the League of Assassins, and he kind of trained Dick Grayson a bit. So that's that version of Shrike. Now, there was a character during that time called Boone, and he trained with Dick Grayson at the same time, and then he took up the name Shrike and has became a Nightwing villain. So that's the most kind of well-known version of Shrike, is Boone. So, Shrike is in this game, and it is the Boone version, and I'm like, okay, if Boone's here, then Dick Grayson is not far. And they mention a lot how Shrike has a kind of younger brother type character who, he lives with that guy. All the Rat King followers are like, hey, that young kid, he's like a brother to Shrike, all that type of stuff. And I'm like, I know exactly who this is. And you meet that younger brother after Shrike meets his untimely demise. Well, actually, before Shrike meets his untimely demise. Shrike does die in this, which is fine. I'm fine with that. He's a lower tier character. The fact that they even have a version of Shrike in this at all is that's a cool little, deep cut. But we get a meeting with the younger brother, and oh my god, dude, it's Dick Grayson. There's no way to look behind it. They have Josh Keaton doing the voice. Josh Keaton voiced Dick Grayson in the Arkham Origins multiplayer. He does the voice in this one. He gets beaten down through a chair, and he picks up 2 pieces of wood from the chair and holds them like the Eskrima sticks. He is surprisingly agile and dodges some of Batman's attacks. And it is noted in various newspaper clippings that the Flying Graysons have recently died. It's Dick Grayson. So this is our first canonical appearance of Dick Grayson. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Dick Grayson being in a life of crime before meeting Batman. That does not sit well with me. Because that's Jason Todd. Jason is the one who always leads a troubled life before meeting Batman. Dick doesn't do that. And I'm not a huge fan of Dick Grayson being part of this rat cult. And then by the end of the game, you have, in typical Arkham fashion, you have like dialogue during the credits. And the dialogue is Leslie Tompkins leaving a message for Bruce saying, about that rat that you found, he's come to visit me a couple times. I think you should come meet him too. So that's like setting up the fact that Bruce and Dick are gonna meet each other, and this could set up possibly whatever the next Arkham game is. Whoever develops it, there's an easy tie in there for them to now further develop Dick and Bruce's relationship. Maybe Dick gets adopted by Bruce officially and becomes Robin in the next Arkham prequel game. So that does set that up nicely, but I'm just not a huge fan of Dick Grayson being, leading a life of crime before meeting Batman, because that is always Jason Todd's role. He is older, much older in his teens, but this is because when Arkham Origins was developed, DC was now fully into the New 52, so they were doing more New 52 stuff, tying more New 52 stuff into Arkham Origins, and they'd already established by that point that they were following the New 52 route with Dick Grayson, where he became Robin as a teenager. So that wasn't too big of a surprise for me. But yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of the way Dick Grayson's introduced. I'm happy he's here, but I'm happy he's in the game, but I don't think this was the right way to introduce him. But it was a nice little tease with Shrike and all that. I am happy they at least tied him together with someone he's canonically known. That shows they did do their homework. Let's see. Next up, I think we might as well just talk about him now. Harvey Dent. Harvey Dent is in this game, played by Troy Baker. And, it's really good they got Troy back, because, Troy Baker's Two-Face, so play Harvey Dent. Cool. They established that, kind of a long Halloween-esque thing has happened with Batman, Gordon, and Harvey. They took down Carmine Falcone. So they established the long Halloween trio there. Harvey Dent, in this game, they do some stuff that it's like, I don't quite know. So it is revealed during flashbacks that Harvey and Bruce grew up together as friends. Essentially brothers. That's how they see each other, as brothers in everything but blood. And you get stuff where the two of them grew up together, like I said, with Leslie and all that stuff. These retcons here, which, then Leslie doesn't get a mention at all in any other Arkham games, whatever. But you have this whole backstory with Harvey and Bruce, where they grew up together, they see each other as brothers, really good friends, all that type of stuff. And we see stuff with Harvey's father, and Harvey's father having the dissociative disorder that Harvey would eventually get. And you see all that type of stuff. You see Bruce, in a flashback, give Harvey his scholarship to, become an attorney and go to law school and all that stuff before Bruce left to go train. You see all that type of stuff. And it's really nice because I like the idea that Bruce and Harvey are friends before the accident. Bruce Wayne and Harvey Dent are friends before the accident. It's something that the Batman the Animated Series did as well, which is showing that Bruce Wayne and Harvey Dent, they're good friends. Harvey appeared in a couple episodes, like 2 episodes, before he became Two-Face, but it was enough to establish he's a friend of Bruce Wayne's. So then when the Two-Face turn happens, it actually hurts more, because it's like, oh, we've seen these guys be friends before, and now Harvey goes through this horrible transformation and becomes Two-Face. So I get that's what they were kind of trying to do, show that Bruce and Harvey were friends and all that type of stuff. And they do show a bit of Harvey getting kind of frustrated with Bruce during like voicemails that he leaves for Bruce, telling Bruce, you should be here, the city needs you, and you're off going wherever. Kind of showing a bit of like not like hatred towards Bruce, but a bit of annoyance at the very least that he's not here, and a bit of frustration towards him. And Harvey Dent, in this game, we get to see his transformation into Two-Face. He gets the acid in the face all along Halloween. Now, I was very concerned. There is a fake out early in the game with Shrike, where it looks like Shrike's gonna burn Harvey. And I'm like, don't do it, don't do it, and they didn't do it. Harvey transformation happens when you, as Matches Malone, are being framed for the supposed murder of Chris Nakano. And you're on the stand to have a pre-trial. And Jonathan Crane is going to be the one doing the mental assessment to see if you're fit to stand for trial. And he's, got like a canister of some, drug that he's going to force you to inhale, right? And everyone holds Jonathan Crane back like, whoa, calm down. You, as Matches Malone, are then supposed to swipe the canister away. Once you swipe the canister away, the canister then gets swiped away right into Harvey's left side, and it eats away at him, and he becomes Two-Face. Now, of course, many people were under the assumption that this was like Long Halloween and Sal Maroni did it. However, it was pointed out he never actually says anywhere who threw it. He just says, like Falcone in Arkham City, he says, Falcone was going to go down for what he did. And then, he says, look at my face. Does it look like it happened? And then in Arkham Knight, he tells Bruce, you're the one who let that acid-throwing bastard on the stand. That type of stuff. And that's what he calls you here. He never said it was Sal Maroni in Arkham Knight. So this is the wiggle room they're using. They never said it was Sal Maroni. It was just someone associated with Falcone threw acid in Harvey's face. And that's what they did here, because you, as Matches Malone, by this point, are in good with Carmine Falcone, and you're like a known associate of him in the prison. So, and Harvey does call you in this an acid-throwing bastard, which I very much appreciated. So, there is stuff like that where it shows that Camouflage did do their research for this game, which I like. I like that stuff. So, yeah, Harvey being Two-Face, his transformation to Two-Face, I actually have zero problems with, and I thought that it was done cleverly. What I don't like is the big reveal. Who is the Rat King? It is revealed it is Harvey Dent. Harvey Dent is the Rat King, and he is the Rat King because he already, by this point, has the dissociative personality disorder. He just doesn't know it. This was something I kind of sussed out very early on, and I was like, please tell me I'm wrong. I don't want to be right. I don't want the Rat King to be Harvey Dent. Please don't have it be Harvey Dent. Have it be someone else. And it was Harvey Dent. I mean, it wasn't Joker, so that's good. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this. I'm not a fan of Harvey Dent being the Rat King. Camouflage, they said themselves that a lot of the time they did not know who the Rat King was gonna be. And I get that they needed someone known by DC fans, to be the Rat King, but Harvey, again, this is a type of thing where it's like, oh, but it's never mentioned in any of the Arkham games, and then they mention, Harvey has, by the end of the game, because of his mental breakdown, he's completely forgot he was the Rat King. It's a good showdown at the very end, right? Harvey Dent, with his face bandaged up, right in front of the bat signal, has an old man on his knees holding a gun to his head. He's about to kill him. He's about to dispense justice. And that's because this old man is Joe Chill, the murderer of Batman's parents. They bring Joe Chill into the game, which I'm saddened myself I didn't see who he was. He's introduced in the prison as just Joe, and it wasn't until you start getting a bit more development to his past where he's like, I did something and I'm not proud of it and I deserve to be here, right? That I realized, oh my god, this is Joe Chill. I'm sad I didn't piece it together quicker, but eventually I did, that he was Joe Chill before the reveal. And, Harvey's like, I promised like an 8-year-old boy I would get justice for him and his parents. And that's what I'm gonna do. And Batman says, you know, Bruce wouldn't want this. And Harvey's like, how the hell do you know? And Batman unmasks himself to Harvey Dent. And on its own, if this was like isolated from Arkham, I'd be loving this. I think this is fan-freaking-tastic. But because it's in the Arkham universe, I'm like, I don't know. They do say that Harvey, of course, has his full mental breakdown after, and this is kind of why he shuts this out. He doesn't remember this, which is the excuse they're going to use. You know, he's fully lost his mind now. He's full on got the split personality that he's just lost it. He doesn't remember this, right? So he doesn't remember being the Rat King. He doesn't remember this final showdown. He doesn't remember any of it, right? Bit of a cop-out, but okay. The Rat King thing, again, just, it didn't need to be Harvey. It really didn't need to be Harvey. I would have much preferred if you just said Ratcatcher was the villain of the game. You know, if you just straight up just went Ratcatcher has a cult and he's the villain of the game. I would have much preferred that than making Harvey the Rat King. And I kind of also thought Harvey was the Rat King because Troy Baker was doing the voices. And I'm like, oh no. But yeah, so that's basically Batman Arkham Shadow discussing it, right? So, overall, is this a true Batman Arkham game? Well, it has all the hallmarks. It's got the patient interview tapes, which are very interesting and nice to listen to. It's got collectibles for you to find. You know, Rat King radios, Rat King idols. There's no Riddler trophies, but the idols and the radios kind of replace that. You know, there is side missions for you. Well, not really side missions. There's no real side missions, to be honest with you. But they have fully immersed themselves into the Arkham lore. There's characters from Arkham Origins, nor just Blackgate, that are here. There's Easter eggs and references to multiple DC characters, you know, out there. Like during the radio, you can hear Anarchy be a call-in on a Paranoia show, so he's still out there. They have Vic Sage with his conspiracy theories. Vic Sage is the Question. So, you know, stuff like that. Jack Ryder's still doing his new show. Vicky Vale is still there reporting on stuff. You know, you hear stuff about Ted Kord in the news, so there's stuff like that, you know, for the DC stuff. Where this fits into Arkham, this fits in like 6 months after Arkham Origins and couple months after Origins Blackgate, so you know that it fits. It has a nice time slot there, and there is stuff that they set up for future games. Like I said, Dick Grayson. There's stuff about Pamela Isley, Poison Ivy, that is set up in this game. You know, there's stuff about Poison Ivy, Pamela Isley they were talking about in this game, and I'm kind of like, don't screw stuff up because of her interview tape. But they set stuff up for her that adheres to her patient interview tape in Arkham Asylum. And I'm like, oh, well, look at that. So they're set up for Pamela in the next Arkham game when they want to do it. They have set up Dick Grayson. They've set up Poison Ivy being born and all that type of stuff. And they've set up something else as well with another kind of side mission thing you can do, which is you can find these symbols around Blackgate Prison. And it's very much implied it is the Order of Saint Dumas. I'm iffy on this because Batman in Arkham City does not have any inclination that he's ever encountered the Order of Saint Dumas before. You know, because when Alfred tells him these inscriptions seem to correlate with an Order of Saint Dumas, Batman's like, just what I need, another secret society. You know? So it implies he's never seen the Order before, yet now he has the symbols here. Bit of lore breaking there. But yeah. So overall, and the vibe of the story, you know, it has the dark Arkham feel to it. The prison feels like, you know, a claustrophobic prison. You get the action. The combat is as well as they can. You can tell they tried to stay as true to the combat and Predator aspect they could while using a VR system. And I like they kept as much of the same voice cast as they could get. And yeah, overall, I'd say Batman Arkham Shadow did a great job of being a Batman Arkham game, and I would consider it a pure canon game in the Batman Arkham mythos. It does stuff that I don't like, you know, like the reveal of the Rat King, I think is stupid. I think them making Barbara Oracle already is pretty dumb. But, you know, it does a lot of good, and you can tell they cared about the Arkham lore. You can tell that they did their research and they tried to make fans happy. And at the end of the day, that's what a video game should do. So I believe that Batman Arkham Shadow is a true Batman Arkham game. Definitely better than that piece of shit known as Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. This is the true Arkham game of 2024, and you all should go out, and if not, play it, because I'm not playing it, you know. At least go out and watch the gameplay of it, you know. You could at the very least do that and just experience it somewhat, and you'll feel it like I do. Like, oh, this is an Arkham game. This is what I was missing. This is what I want back. You get that with this. So Batman Arkham Shadow, it's a true Arkham game. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you all next time.